Chapter 8, Dermal Ridges. I'm sure there are fingerprints to dust for this time, Mrs. Dickerson tells us, sliding her cane toward the kitchen in the back of the house. The whole place smells like sugar and cinnamon and nutmeg and peanut butter and fresh brewed tea leaves. It makes my stomach moan. I was in the kitchen here baking, and wasn't I surprised to turn around and see a Bigfoot staring at me through the window of all things, leaned up right there on the sill. She nods to the window facing the thick woods and out back. When I turned to look at him, he growled at me through the glass. Right here is where I dropped the hot pan of cookies I had just taken out of the oven. She motions to a small indentation in the wood floor. Tobin aims his Polaroid camera at the dent and takes a picture of it. The camera spits out a photo. He grabs the photo and hands it to me. Exhibit A, he says, and turns back to Mrs. Dickerson. Then what happened? Well, I had to throw all those cookies in the trash, of course. No, Mrs. Dickerson, with the Bigfoot, Tobin says. Oh, yes. Well, the pan had made this horribly loud bang, which must have startled him because that's when he darted off into the trees. But not before giving the loudest, shrillest scream I've ever heard in all my days. It made the hairs on the back of my neck stand straight up. My goodness, it was something all right. We can check for prints on the glass and the sill, Tobin tells me, adjusting his chin strap. I sure hope you're right this time, Mrs. Dickerson. You know, I keep my camera here just in case, but it happened so quickly that I didn't get a chance to grab it. Mrs. Dickerson points to the camera hanging on the hook next to the refrigerator. Me and my assistant will go check out the window in the question. Then bring all the evidence back to HQ to further evaluate. Tobin nods at me, all official-like. HQ? I roll my eyes and then head out the back door and down the cement steps with Tobin at my heels. That's right, headquarters, he says, and then points to the ground just under the kitchen window and takes a picture of it. Grass. No footprints to cast. I watch him take off his glasses and eyeball every inch of the window. His nose so close that his breath makes small circles of fog on the panes. Then he carefully sets his leather case on the ground and unzips it. He pulls out a jar filled with blackish powder and allows a big, round paintbrush. I watch him swirl the brush inside the jar of powder and then brush in tiny circles along the window and windowsill. The window smears into a messy, grayish cloud all over the glass. I don't think she's going to like you doing that to her window, I tell him. Well, this is how you dust for prints, he says, pushing up his glasses with his forearm. No footprints to cast, but there could be a finger or palm print on the window. Bigfoot fingerprints? He sighs like I'm the biggest dope in the universe. The Bigfoot is a descendant of Gigantopithecus, he explains as he swirls the brush. It's a species of giant ape from Asia that is believed to have been extinct for more than 1 million years. What we know is that humans have friction skin like fingerprints or dermal ridges that usually go in one direction, and primates have dermal ridges that usually go in another. Plus, they're coarser and wider. I'm dusting to see what type of prints these are, human or non-human prints. Oh, is all I can say to that. What do you want me to do? Grab the tape from the case and we'll see if we can lift some prints from the glass. I bend down and dig through his leather case. There's a movie camera inside, a bunch of packets of unused film, extra pens, tweezers, and $1 silver at the bottom. I feel something else and pull it out. It's an old picture of some man with reddish-brown curls leaned up against a silver convertible and holding a baby. Who's this? I hold up the picture. Tobin doesn't even hear me. Now he's examining his grayish, cloudy masterpiece with a magnifying glass that he's pulled out of his back pocket. Who's this? I ask again. Tobin turns to look at what I'm holding in my hands and then turns back toward the window. My dad, he says. Is that you with him? I asked him. He sighs one of those loud sighs again. Did you find the tape or not? Sorry, I say, putting the picture back in and digging down deeper to find a roll of Scotch tape. I don't have a dad, I say matter-of-factly, holding out the tape in his direction. Well, what do you mean you don't have a dad? He asks without taking his eyes off the glass. Everyone has a dad. Not me, I say. Mama told me he didn't want to be a father when I was born, so I guess you could say that technically I don't have one. Here, he looks at me. The tape, I hold it toward him. Don't need it, he sighs. There's no fingerprints. So you don't need the tape. Mrs. Dickerson, Tobin mentions through the glass. I'm just not seeing anything. She pokes her head out the back screen door. Well, isn't that a shame? Are you absolutely sure? Pretty sure. He examines the window again through the magnifying glass. I'm not finding a fingerprint or a palm print or anything. Ugh, well, fiddlesticks. She looks disappointed. Tobin shakes his head and drops his hands to his sides. Nope, there's just nothing, he says, looking back up at her in the doorway. My goodness, I hate to have you kids come all this way out for nothing. How about some cookies and tea before you leave? I have peanut butter and molasses fresh out of the oven, she says, her wrinkles swallowing up her eyes.